It has been a busy day as a Nebraska fan, and the news keeps coming. It was just announced the Huskers are going after two of the best offensive line transfers in America, both out of Georgia Tech. One former 5-star, one former 4-star. I'm going to introduce you to who these guys are, what they bring to the table, will Nebraska actually land them, and everything else you need to know, along with a bigger reaction to Donovan Raiola being fired. I've talked to a couple of players over these past couple hours. I'll let you know their reaction. One offensive lineman, I wouldn't be surprised if he were to enter the portal. Some news around Jacory, Barney. It is not looking good. Dylan Raiola's future with his uncle no longer being employed. Nebraska just missed out on their number one defensive coordinator target. We'll talk about why this happened, what happened behind the scenes, and where we go from here in this search and so much more. So really quick, this is a loaded update. It's been a loaded day. Hit that like button if you're fired up. And also, days like today prove why we have the best family on Nebraska YouTube. We're working hard every single hour to bring you breaking news. This is the only channel that posts breaking news, talking Nebraska, just like this, talking coaching carousel, talking recruiting, talking the portal. And folks, this is just the beginning. It's going to be a busy December. It's going to be a busy January. If you want to stay in tune with the Huskers this offseason, it's no brainer. Take a seconds, join the family, hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. But without further ado, we have a lot to talk about. Want to get things started with the transfer portal, then we'll get to some players who might leave, the reaction to Donovan Raiola being fired, what we're doing at the defensive coordinator spot after we just missed out on our number one candidate. But getting things going, it of course was announced earlier today that we've hired Georgia Tech's offensive line coach Jeep Wade. And after that announcement, it was also announced by On3 that one of their up-and-comer offensive linemen, former 4-star Peyton Joseph, had entered the portal, and there are already sources that indicate that he would likely follow his O-line coach to Nebraska. So this is someone who's a true freshman. He redshirted this season. 1 year ago today, he was one of the biggest recruits in America. He was a consensus 4-star. He was a top 15 guard in the country. Had offers from Florida State, Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, but decided to commit to Georgia Tech because he had a great relationship with Jeep Wade, who, by the way, is a great recruiter. Jeep Wade not only is a great developer, but is a great recruiter. So this is somebody who has positional versatility, can play tackle, can play guard, can play center, all 4 years remaining, in super high upside. So we know that Nebraska's offensive line, it's going to look completely different next season. I expect us to take, at the very minimum, 4 transfers there. We're going to get some bona fide dudes who are going to start at tackle, start at guard. But really, the problem with Nebraska in the past, the reason why our offensive line is never any good, is because we never take depth pieces in the portal. We never get guys who, can be our backups, who have really high potentials but have 3-4 years remaining, okay? That's why we're never good. We try to get these home run unicorns, and those are great, right? It's great to go after those type of guys. We need those type of guys, but you need players who can start for you maybe a year after you take them, 2 years after you take them. And Payne Joseph, he fits that category. Like, if Nebraska were to take him, is he going to start day one? Probably not, but he's going to compete to start, and he could be our starter in 27. He could be our starter in 28. And he has upside to be, again, a future first-round, second-round draft pick. With him having every single offer in America, and you better believe some other Power 4 schools are going to want him in the portal. So we'll watch out for Payne Joseph. Again, it's going to look completely different in this offensive line room next year, thanks to our brand new O-line coach, Jeep Wade. But a couple other guys from Georgia Tech I expect to go to Nebraska to follow him here. Then, another guy I have my eyes out for, and I want to make this very clear, he has not entered the portal just yet, but there are a couple of Georgia Tech fans who expect this to happen. This is Josh Petty, one of the biggest name tackles in the country, also a true freshman. He was a former 5-star recruit. I mean, this guy is a freak athlete. I remember watching his film as a high school senior because I was so shocked that somebody this good was committed to Georgia Tech, right? Because he can get every offer he can imagine, but he committed to Georgia Tech, and that's partly because of Jeep Wade, because Jeep Wade's such a great recruiter, as we just talked about. But again, he redshirted this year for Georgia Tech. He was expected to start next year, but really hasn't had too great of a tenure over there. Had a couple incidents off the field, nothing that'll really happen again. But he loves the offensive line coach who's now at Nebraska, and expected that if he were to enter the portal, will likely follow him over to Lincoln. So just watch out for this name, Josh Petty, 6'6", 300 pounds, about as high as an upside as you're ever going to see. Former 5-star. And he's going to get some interest nationwide, but if he has a good relationship with Jeep Wade, like it's been talked about, I do expect Nebraska to be one of the front runners. But just know this, not only are we going to get some day one starters, we're going to get some guys we pay top dollar for, we're going to get some high upside backups who can start for us in the foreseeable future. All right, let's talk a little bit about Donovan Raiola, some more reactions to him being fired. So I talked to some players over these past couple hours, and honestly, you know what's crazy? Most of the players I talked to, and all of the players I talked to, by the way, were offensive linemen. So they're in this room, they're communicating with Donovan almost every single day. They were okay with the move. None of them were super sad about it. None of them were super excited about it. But all of the offensive line I talked to said, you know what, this was expected, and they were okay with it. Now, there's a couple of them who said, you know what, we got to watch out for a couple of names to enter the portal because with Donovan, it's either you loved him or you hated him, right? There's really no in between, right? A lot of the offensive linemen loved him, but they were okay with the move simply because they knew the offensive line wasn't playing up to stuff, and they kind of saw the writing on the wall. There were a couple offensive linemen who just hated him because Donovan was one of those coaches where He's one of those coaches where he kind of rip into you a little bit, right? It was kind of a tough love type of coach where he would, say some stuff to you. It might be personal at practice. He might, question your manhood, but he loves you truly. I think Donovan's a good guy, but a lot of players didn't respond to his coaching style, right? So again, that's why you see kind of the mixed response right now on social media. But most of the players, again, they were pretty happy with him leaving, or they just kind of expected it to happen. But there is one player who we've been talking about in the past. I think with Donovan leaving, it kind of seals the deal whether or not he's going to be here next year on the offensive line. This is Justin Evans. This is a name that I've already heard even before Donovan Raiola was fired, that watch out for him because he's going to get interest nationwide. Like, this is a big-time center who actually was our best offensive lineman this year, in my opinion. Played some really good reps, particularly in the pass pro. So just watch out for Justin Evans. We'll see about his future, but he was one of those guys who was all in on Donovan. He loved Donovan. Okay, loved him. And also, Donovan's been here for such a long time. We forget that Donovan was the one who recruited Justin Evans to Nebraska. So wouldn't be shocked if Justin Evans were to leave. As for any other offensive lineman, it's tough to say, right? You never know. But watch out for Justin Evans. Hopefully, Jeepway can get here and build a great relationship with Justin Evans. Because again, this is a really good center. He's not like a first round pick, second round pick type of guy. But again, you can do a lot worse than Justin Evans. And trust me, we have done worse than him in the past. But just watch out for this name now that Donovan has been fired. And also some news around Jacory Barney. We've talked about this over the past week, right? There's a lot of rumors right now flowing around Jacory Barney, whether or not he's going to stay at Nebraska after this year. Now, I'll tell you right now, for a fact, he's not in Lincoln right now. Again, he's back home in Florida. Most of the players are back home right now, but a lot of them are going to get back on Monday for bowl practice. Monday's going to be that big day. We're going to see a lot of players enter the portal on Monday, but there's already a lot of people, a lot of speculation, and the rumors have been ramping up that Jacory Barney will enter the portal in these next couple of days. So again, that's all I know right now. Never really talked to Jacory Barney personally, so I can't say for a fact if he said that, but again, there's a lot of speculation inside that building that Jacory Barney will not be here next year. And again, it's also kind of ties to the fact that Dylan's not going to be here next year, right? That's pretty much kind of a done deal as well, that Dylan won't be here. These guys are really good friends. I don't know if Jacory's going to follow Dylan wherever Dylan goes, but the part of the reason why Jacory even stayed here last year is because of Dylan in the first place, right? Jacory could have entered the portal last year, but he stayed here because of great quarterback play. Well, if his guy Dylan's going to leave, the great quarterback play that he once stayed here for is no longer going to be here. And he likes TJ, but they're not as good friends as what he is with, Dylan, because both those guys are in the same class. So just watch out for Jacory. Again, something we'll monitor very quickly, and I'm sure we're going to get answers. Again, I think we'll get answers on Monday, if not Tuesday, around his future. And then, of course, I didn't put a slide here, but talking about Dylan Raiola, we'll have an in-depth video talking about tomorrow, but just know this, with Donovan being fired today, it's the final nail in the coffin. Everybody kind of sees the writing on the wall. And again, I'll say this about Dylan, and we'll discuss tomorrow. No matter what you feel about Dylan, no matter your opinion on him, if you're high, if you're low, if you're somewhere in between, I think most Nebraska fans can agree that we're just tired of the drama. We're tired of the drama. We're tired of the family, the Raiola deep state, all the rumors, all the speculation. We're tired of it. And with Matt Rhule making a very tough decision today to get rid of the offensive line coach, Donovan Raiola, that writing was on the wall for a very long time. I told you guys for weeks that this was happening. I also have been telling you guys for weeks that Dylan's likely going to be leaving. Kind of tells you everything you know. So we've been ahead of this on the channel. We've been talking about this for a long time. And again, I expect we'll get some Dylan clarity pretty quickly, to just take my word for that one. But again, we'll talk about it more on the channel tomorrow if it were in fact to happen tomorrow. But again, I expect some maybe Monday, if not Tuesday. We know that Dylan's back home right now in Georgia and arguably moved out of his apartment. I'm kind of spoiling tomorrow's video, but we'll discuss it then. All right, and then talking about the big announcement that Nebraska's #1 defensive coordinator candidate, Vince Karras, has declined the Huskers job and instead will be the brand new defensive coordinator at Syracuse. Now, I want to make this very clear. He declined Nebraska's job. It was not vice versa. We offered him the position, and it was reported by a Syracuse beat reporter about an hour ago that he declined Nebraska, and now he's going over to Syracuse to be their next DC. So, yeah, I mean, this is a bad look. We got lockered a little bit. Matt Rhule got lockered. Now, again, I've heard some other reports over these past couple hours that part of the reason that he declined the Nebraska job is that he wanted to bring his DB coach alongside with him to Nebraska. We obviously already have Addison Williams, so we didn't want to bring him. We did not want him to bring the DB coach along with him, so that's why he took the Syracuse job, so he could bring that guy with him to his next destination. So that's why I've heard, but again, it is known, it is a fact. This is not debatable. It is a fact that Nebraska, this was arguably our #1 candidate. We had an offer on the table, and he said, you know what? No, I want to bring my guy with me. I'm going to go over to Syracuse. And then we also know that Fran Brown hopped in at the very last second to land his talents. So he'll be the new DC over there with Syracuse. So that's really what happened. I know some people were speculating, well, maybe we didn't offer him. Maybe we wanted somebody bigger and better. That's not really the case. I get this was somebody who was top 3 on our list. He was top 3. We wanted him badly. but clearly not bad enough, and we weren't willing to make room for the DB coach. But I'm cool with that decision, just simply because Addison Williams is a really good DB coach. We're not going to push Addison Williams out to appease a new DC, even though that DC also I thought was really, really high quality. So Vince Karras will go to Syracuse. Now, again, we'll talk about the defensive coordinator search a little bit more tomorrow as well, but just know some speculation right now around Jim Leonhard. That speculation is real. Is it realistic? Is it a huge likelihood we'll hire Jim Leonhard? No, but there's some real talk there, and we'll discuss later. And I'll say this too. I think a lot of Nebraska fans, I've seen them, they're celebrating this. They're like, oh, this is a good thing that Vince Karras is not coming to Nebraska. We don't want him in the first place. Well, you can have that opinion. I'm not going to tell you what you should believe. However, who is a defensive coordinator candidate who's realistic, who has more boxes checked than him? There's very few. Again, people will say Jim Leonhard. I agree with you. Maybe he has more boxes checked, but is that really super realistic? Is it? I would argue no. Even though it's a possibility, I wouldn't argue it's realistic. Jim Knowles, maybe you could argue is more boxes checked, but is that super realistic? He's a candidate. We'll see. But from a realistic standpoint, I think the guy who we're about to hire is worse than Vince Karras. And trust me, there are some names who I've heard, and we'll discuss tomorrow. It'll be my 9 o'clock video tomorrow on the channel. Again, everybody, I want to get you guys ready for this. Get ready for Monday. Okay, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you have notifications on. Monday will be huge. Just like I told you guys last Monday would be huge, this Monday will be huge. Because, again, we have bull practice on Monday. Pretty much all the players are home right now. Okay, Emmett's at home, Dylan's at home, Jacory's at home, a couple other big-time players are at home. Depending on which players come back and which players stay at home, kind of tells you everything you need to know about who's going to enter the portal and who's not. Okay, so we will find out a lot on Monday. And we're going to get some movement. I mean, we're going to get Del Rod clarification likely on Monday. We'll get some Mekhi Nelson clarification on Monday. We'll get some Barney clarification. We'll get some Carl Nelson clarification. Multiple offensive linemen, multiple defensive linemen. Monday will be huge. It just will be. So I know a lot of people are saying, oh, Nebraska, we're doing a really good job. We've only lost one play in the portal so far. It's not going to end like that. Again, we're going to lose 10, 15. I'd say the very minimum 10, but we're going to lose, I'd say 20. If not 25 players to the portal. That's the sport nowadays, okay? I'm not going to freak out about it. Like, I'll freak out if we lose a good player, sure. But with the overall losing 15 players, that's expected. No matter how good you are, you're going to lose players. No matter how good you are, you're going to lose some quality players. Even Alabama loses quality players. But just watch out for Monday. Again, there's some names I expect to enter. We'll talk about it more, but it's going to be busy for Nebraska. And also, we're going to lose some players, and we're going to gain some players. And that all starts very soon. And also, again, we got bowl prep. We got to start prepping for Utah, which is going to be a big time ball game. Utah. I feel like nobody's even talked about Utah. That was the big storyline earlier today. And then we had the offensive line news and all this, and nobody's even talking about Utah anymore. Like, that's a big time ball game on national TV, and we got to get ready for that one, or else we're going to get embarrassed. All right, guys, I'll be live tonight on the channel at 8:30. Be there or be square. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you made it far, hit the like button, subscribe. As always, folks, go and I'll see you in the next one.